Hello and welcome back to Shoogly Shed Motors. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute before I've managed to get any work done on the XV750. I've basically been waiting for some things to get coated and painted and other such. So what I have currently is the stuff back from powder coating, which is very exciting. It's a good start. And I'm going to try and reassemble what I can. I'm missing the engine just now. The engine is still away being painted by Gav. So when I get the engine back, that's when things will start to kind of pick up pace quite quickly. But I do have the frame and the swing arm and all the other wee bits and pieces that I got powder coated, including all the foot controls. So I'm going to try and assemble things like the foot controls, because that's all small bits and pieces that all need to be kind of put back together and, you know, lubricated as it all goes together for its final build. But yeah, until I get the engine back, the frame kind of can't really do anything with it, because obviously the engine and the frame are kind of both stressed members in this bike, so the engine is kind of pivotal for getting the bike kind of up on two wheels. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of the powder coated parts out and, like I say, start assembling some things and yeah, just go through it methodically and see where we get to. Right, first things first, that's the gear shift side of the boot plate assemblies. I've got the pivot that we made. What I'm going to do is going to put it in the threaded hole with a bit of thread lock, because it's kind of permanently, well, to be permanently in there. Don't really want it coming out or coming loose. So a healthy amount of thread locker on there, and then that will just screw in like that. And then just tighten it down. Like that. Perfect. Right, that's one thing assembled. Next up, I've got the holder for the foot pegs, which goes into here with its little locating dowel, and then we've got a nut to go on the back. And tell you what, just because I've got it out, I'm going to put some thread lock on it. These are all things that aren't supposed to come apart regularly, if at all. So it's wise to put a bit of thread lock on it. Right, foot pegs. Feels wrong to call them pegs because they're not really pegs, are they? More like bear traps. Right, what one goes on where? That's obviously the wrong one. That's the correct one. So, if I remember rightly, it had a couple of spacers on each side, and then we've got stainless cotter pins to go through and hold them in place. So we've got, this could be a bit fiddly. There we go. Next thing is the gear shifter, which I think was on that way round. So this needs a good amount of lubrication, because obviously it's pivoting on this. So we'll put a healthy amount of grease on this. Can always wipe off any excess. There we go. And we'll slide that on there. Here's the excess I was talking about. Now this got a washer and a circlip. Well, that's turned out beautifully. So the next thing is, of course, the spring-loaded tool shifter that we made, which, if you remember rightly, took quite a few attempts to get right. So, see if I can remember how this went together. Right, that's one side done. Alright, moving on to the other side. Getting all dusty just even sitting in the shed. But this one, obviously, same idea. Gonna have this guy on it. So, into the hole, into its dowel, bit of thread lock. And then get this nut on the back of it. Like that. That's nice and tight. Next up is the foot peg. Problem with black things is they get very dusty very quickly. And then line these up. Like that. And stainless steel cotter pin, or split pin I should say, in there. My spring-loaded foot peg. All done. Right, now we've got the brake pedal actuator arm thingamabobbery, which is going to go into here. This needs a healthy amount of lubrication, and that's why it's got the channel down the middle of it to basically hold grease. Want this to be nice and smooth. And in she goes. Just work that grease in there. There we go, nice and smooth. And on there, like that. So, rear brake master cylinder is going on like that. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of copper grease on the bolts because they're steel into aluminium, and we all know how much steel and aluminium like to corrode into each other. So a little bit of grease on either side of it, because why not? Ease them together like that. See if I can get these to line up. There, I think. that's functioning well, which it is, perfect. And then it's a washer and a split pin. Like that. A wee wipe. There we go. So the last thing this side needs now is obviously the brake lever. So brake lever, and then we have the actual plate that goes onto it, which is similarly covered in dust, and the two bolts. So what we that way round, I'm going to fire some thread lock into this hole. That looks bloody awesome, if I say so myself. And then I'm just going to put a touch of copper slip on these splines. Somewhere like that. Maybe slightly higher. Hard to tell. But because it's on splines, it's always going to be adjustable. That's that side done. Right, the last thing I'm going to assemble just now is something that I didn't actually make on the channel. So here it is. This is a height adjustable side stand. So that's just the bracket that holds the side stand onto the engine. But effectively what I did was I cut off the old side stand. I drilled and threaded this piece of bar here. I re-welded on the old return spring hook from the other one, the old side stand. And then I have this piece of M12 stainless threaded rod welded onto a foot plate that I just made out of sort of flat bar stock. So with this and a nut on it, like that, effectively the lower portion of the side stand, this bit here, can actually be wound out to change the height of the side stand. So all you would do is unscrew it and then use that as a lock nut to stop it going back in. So I'm going to put some grease on these threads. Now, why is a height adjustable side stand important? Well, if you remember rightly, this obviously has a different front end on it. It's got a different size rear wheel on it, and it has height adjustable rear suspension. So the height of the bike and the way it sits is constantly sort of changeable, especially with the height adjustable rear suspension. So whenever that gets adjusted, the bike will lean more over to the side and obviously more at risk of falling over. So with a height adjustable side stand, you can adjust that. Make sure your beloved bike, this bike that we've put so much work into, doesn't fall over and get damaged. So wipe off the excess grease and Loosen that off. Now, I'm not sure what angle or what height to set it at just yet, so just going to go for roughly that just now. We can play about with it when it goes back on the bike. So the next thing is, this is going to go onto here, onto the bracket. So we smearing of grease for good measure. So it goes on this way round, because obviously the spigot for the return spring is on the back. And then it's always a bit more tricky when it's been powder coated, because it's a slightly tighter fit. But the powder coat will sort of compress and wear as the stand goes up and down, and it makes it quite a nice snug fit. So that's kind of my theory there. I've done this a few times with side stands. Like that. And then there's a lock nut that goes on the front. Like that. I think it's that size. Like that. Oh. There we go. Good Lord. Anyway, and then, because I've said all along that this bike is to be a capable adventure bike, we have one of these little feet to go in the stand, because you don't want your stand pushing or sinking into soft ground. So all the cool guys put these on their bikes, I'm led to believe. So as if I made it to fit. That sits in there. That goes on top of it. And I've got the 3 Allen bolts to go in. There you go. So that's the side stand all assembled. Looking pretty good. That way around. Yeah. Looking pretty cool. That's pretty much all I can actually assemble right now, but when I get the engine back, like I say, things will start to pick up a bit of a pace. So let's use the magic of cinema and editing and fast forward to then. And just like that, I have an engine. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, all blacked out with some pretty trick brassy gold oil feed lines. Side casings are missing, well this one's missing, and the kind of infill disc on this side is also missing because Gav's still working on them. But in the meantime I've got the rest of the engine back, which means I can start to put the bike back together. So frame over here has been powder coated. Needs to go onto the engine with all the bracketry and things like that. Once the frame's onto the engine, I can try and maybe jack it up in a way that I can get it off this trolley, get the trolley back to Gav, and then yeah, continue assembling the bike and try and get it up on 2 wheels before too long. Right, that's the frame bolted down to the engine now. I've been kind of weighing up what to do in my head about getting the whole assembly off the painting trolley here. So what I think I'm going to do is fit the front end of the bike, so the triple crown, the forks and the wheel. And that will allow me to basically get the front wheel into the chock and raise the back end of the bike up and take this trolley off. That's kind of the easiest and sort of safest way I could think of doing it, especially on my own. It would just be a disaster if anything bad happened, so I'm gonna try and not let any of that happen and just get this up right, and then get the back end sorted once the front end is fitted. So the new headstock bearing races are pressed in. I've got the new bearings just packed with grease. I've got the triple crowns that I blasted in my cabinet and gave them a lick of paint as well, so they're looking nice and fresh. Yeah, just continue just assembling things basically. Okay, just cut my finger, an absolute doozy. Spanner slipped while I was tightening the front wheel and I punched that brand new Arashi brake disc. Ah! Right, obviously front end now, the wheel is in the chock, so it's got a bit of side to side stability now. I've jacked it up and more or less the paint trolley is now loose. However, although it has some stability, it doesn't feel confidence inspiring. So although this is loose, I'm probably going to hold off removing it entirely until I get the back end more or less, you know, started. I just don't want to take any risks whatsoever, especially with a freshly painted engine like this. It looks so shiny. It would be a sin for me to make a mistake and do any damage. So back end's going to have to go on first before I remove this trolley entirely, but I'm going to do that tomorrow because it's getting late. Right, let's make some more progress on reassembling the bike. I'm also sporting a new custom Shoogly work jacket just to keep me a wee bit more cozy on this slightly colder April day. Well, that's us back with our rolling chassis for the XV750. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of keep bolting bits onto it just now. There's nothing much more interesting that I can show you, just bolting parts on. Obviously, like the things like the foot controls that I assembled at the start of this episode, I'll be bolting them on. I need to get a couple of different bolts, just new bolts for them. But yeah, it's just a reassembly job just now, making sure that it's nice, shiny new bolts and lots of copper grease and regular grease and oils and things like that, just to make sure it goes together smoothly and will come apart smoothly in the future and nothing will seize or anything like that. I'm probably going to wrap this up here. I might do another episode fairly soon on the carburetors. They're getting a refresh as well and a rebuild, so that might be a bit more of an interesting episode for you. But in the meantime, like I say, I'm just going to keep bolting stuff on, and the next time I see you, hopefully more of the bike will be assembled. I'll give you a quick rundown of it all when I see you then. As usual, please do give me a like, leave me a comment, and make sure you subscribe to the Shoogly Shed channel. I appreciate all the support, and I appreciate your patience while you've been waiting for, an update on this project. But it has been, all hands on deck in the background to get it to where we are right now. So yeah, like I say, I appreciate your patience on that matter. Take care. Goodbye.